Some years ago, this painting entitled The Poor Poet was voted by Germans as the second most popular painting ever, finishing only behind the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. The Poor Poet was painted in 1839 by the German artist Carl Spitzweg, or Spitzweg, and only measures 36 by 45 centimeters or 14 by 18 inches. Now, the high ranking for this work may have been influenced by the fact that this work was stolen in 1989 from the Charlottenburg Palace in Berlin and that it has never been found since. Luckily though, Spitzweg made 3 versions of this work. But overall, the works of Spitzweg have been very popular among thieves over the years, partly because of their convenient sizes to steal, but also because Spitzweg is just extremely popular in Germany. Carl Spitzweg was born in Munich, Germany in 1808, and following the wishes of his father, he became a pharmacist. But when his father died and he received a large inheritance, he happily gave up his work in the pharmacy and became a painter. And one of his first works around age 30 was The Poor Poet. The reception of this work was decent. He did receive an honorable mention for it in the newspaper, but from all the other works that also received the same praise, his is the only one to have withstood the test of time. Spitzweg would be a lifelong bachelor who enjoyed traveling and creating art. He traveled to places like Croatia, Italy, France, England and Belgium, always studying art in museums and exhibitions. He was a self-taught artist who used the inspiration from his travels to further develop his own unique style, and from seeing these works by him, you can see that he has a particular way of creating his work that really separates him from his colleagues. There are a few different elements to characterize his work. In terms of the themes he painted, he enjoyed creating charming and humorous scenes of everyday life and eccentricities of the 19th century German middle class, combined with an interest in landscape painting. His paintings are often short stories that people can easily connect to, whether they match their own life or whether they depict a particular curiosity. Take, for example, The Butterfly Hunter. Not something most of us would do in our spare time, but he captured it in an adoring way, just like the Poor Poet we saw earlier. There's also something specific about the color palette that he used. He avoided bright colors, and it appears as if his colors have become duller over time. One reason for that is that with his background as a pharmacist, he enjoyed creating his own paints, resulting in some unique recipes and colors that have not been used by other artists. Just like the Poor Poet in this painting, Spitzweg loved to live on the top floor of buildings, and he enjoyed the view from up there. The sky so close, the roofs, chimneys and attic windows making up the view from his apartment. And so he identified with this poet in some way. The Poor Poet also tells us quite a bit about the artistic style of Spitzweg, which is rather unique. You may have already noticed that many of his works are largely out of focus, but this work is relatively clear compared to his average painting. It's because of the careful drawing of all the elements in his attic room. The shapes are well defined. It's the coloring element that Spitzweg did seemingly put little attention to, as if the coloring was only an afterthought. Very different from most other artists who would carefully finish their paintings. Combine that with some of the unique paints he created, and it somehow draws people in to have a closer look at his paintings. Whereas many artists who don't have clear outlines and colors are considered inferior, and most people would disregard their paintings as not good enough, the outlines of Spitzweg's paintings are clear enough. But the lack of clear coloring invites us to have a closer look at his works, drawing us into the narrative. I mean, at least for some people. I can also totally imagine that some of these works shown here are completely unattractive to a majority of viewers. To say it in a different way, Spitzweg preferred the narratives of his paintings over creating photographic sharpness. The theme of the poor poet was actually quite trendy in Europe at the time, and a contemporary source from Munich where this work was painted mentions that there were very few writers that could make a decent living. Writing was not a proper profession, but more like a hobby for those who could afford it. If you look carefully, you can recognize the signs of poverty here. The poet lies in his bed with multiple layers of clothes, a nightcap, and under his bed covers. He does have a stove, but it's not fired up, which we know by looking at the top hat hanging on the flue and the stack of papers inside the stove. But the stack of papers inside and in front of it also indicate that when it would get really cold out there, he would eventually burn his papers to warm up the room. The poet was not only poor because it was a difficult profession to make money in, but there are also signs that he is quite old-fashioned and detached from the world. The large scholarly books on this floor were not considered the right sources and inspiration to write from. Instead, the romantics of that day appreciated the free-flowing words based on the writer's experiences. Instead, this poet consults these old-fashioned books, and on the wall we can see the feet of a hexameter, which is a rhythm in which this poet would write his poems. And the poet seems to count the words with his hands to fit within this meter. This is what ancient people ranging from Homer till Shakespeare used, but not a modern writer in this romantic period. Although there is some discussion among experts about whether he is really counting on his hands or whether he is simply squashing a fly between his thumb and index finger. While all these explanations may help us understand the painting a little bit better, fact is that this painting somehow appeals to lots of Germans and people abroad. And the question is why? Many theories have been thrown out, and I'm curious to hear in the comment section down below if you like this painting, and if so, why? Is it because of a sense of escapism, the feeling that many people occasionally have to escape the messy world around us for a bit, retreating to our own room and immersing ourselves in a book or a hobby? Or is it because of the mystery of this painting? Did the artist try to paint an idyllic scene, or is it a piece of satire? Or a combination of both? Do we feel jealous of this man or feel pity? Well, I hope you enjoyed looking into the works of Carl Spitzweg. Whether you like them or not, they're definitely unique in their narratives, themes and appearance. If you had a good time watching this, please help out the channel by clicking the thumbs up button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.